Welcome to Under the Weather. Hi, I'm Kristin, and I'm here to share the voices of a community forever changed by Cyclone Gabrielle. These are stories of survival and solidarity. Stories of what was lost, what was found, and what it means to begin again. Before I introduce the guests for today's episode, I'd like to tell you a bit about our Hawke's Bay Army reservists. The reserves were previously known as the Territorials. The platoon here in Hawke's Bay, along with their Gisborne counterparts, make up the East Coast Company. Along with two other companies, they are known as 5-7 Battalion. This battalion serves the Lower North Island. As reservists, they balance their work for the New Zealand Defence Force with their 9-to-5 civilian roles. So they are very busy people and bring a diverse range of knowledge and skills to the New Zealand Army. The origins of Hawke's Bay Platoon go back to 1863, when the Napier Rifle Volunteers were formed. Fast forward 160 years and several restructures, we find ourselves in 2023. And the men and women of Hawke's Bay Platoon were about to deploy on a very personal mission. Welcome, guys, and thanks for being here today. Davey, can I get you to introduce yourself?
Oh, thanks, Kristin. Kia ora, everyone. My name's Staff Sergeant Davey Forbes. I'm born and bred Hawke's Bay. Grew up here, did all my schooling here. Currently back in Hawke's Bay, living here. I have two wonderful little children and my wife Layla, and we all live in Napier.
Thank you, Davey. And Storm, please introduce yourself.
Oh, kia ora. Yep, my name's Sergeant Storm Harrison. Born and bred in the Hawke's Bay. Just Morai-nui. That's where it all started for me, in the Nui. And then from there, my schooling was Napier Boys High School and enlisted to the Army Defence Force 1998.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Tell us about how you met.
You go first.
What can I say about this amazing human here? So I had the pleasure of meeting a very young Storm Harrison. I was lucky enough to be posted to Napier as the local vehicle mechanic at the time. This is going back probably 1998.
When I joined up,
Yeah, 1998. And this young man, he come into the main workshop of the building one day, and I was introduced to him and said, oh, he's here for work experience. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. So, yeah, just met Storm, and then I've had the pleasure of watching this man's career go from strength to strength from that day onwards.
Yeah, so I would have been about 17, just turned 17, and needed a bit of a career path. Had a couple of cousins in the army, and I thought, yeah, that might be a bit of me. And I was pretty much just going to Napier Boys, eating my lunch, playing rugby. So needed something to do. So yeah, met my big brother here, Dave, and our first interaction was he was fixing a Land Rover when the army had Land Rovers, and he was like, boy, put this alternator on. This is what you need to do. Don't over tighten it, because you'll break the bolt. Yeah, bro, all good. And then, what did I do? Tightening it up, snap. And then, I was worried as he was going to kick my ass. And then, man was like, bro, your new name is Love Fingers. So, yeah, it's one of many names for me. But that was my first introduction to Mr. Forbes here. And then not long after that, I went away on my basic training. So, yeah.
Fantastic. And could each of you tell us briefly about your career with the New Zealand Defence Force?
Yeah, sure. So I left Karamu High School in 1991, finished year 13 or 7th form back then, and I knew that I'd already been accepted into the New Zealand Army as a vehicle mechanic, but the way it worked with timing of basic training, that didn't start until the September of 1992. So I just worked at the freezing works out at Pacific there. And then joined the Army in 1992. So after basic training, got shipped down to Trentham Army Camp in the Hutt Valley there, where we started our apprenticeship as mechanics. And it was awesome. Best time ever. You've got about 80 mischief young chaps and ladies that, all coexisting together and the comedy that goes along with it. So then after doing my apprenticeship, first off down in Burnham in Christchurch there, working as a mechanic, and then up in Linton Army Camp in Palmerston North. And then my dad, he got really badly hurt out at the freezing works. And so I got a compassionate posting back to Napier so I could look after him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which was amazing, absolutely amazing. And I couldn't thank the bosses enough for that opportunity. And I guess throughout that whole period from joining the Army, one of the first loves of being in there is the sport that's available, and played a lot of rugby and just loved it. And when I came back here, I played for the old rugby club that I'd been involved with prior to me joining the Army. And that led on to meeting this real hard case Irish fella that came out here on a rugby exchange. And fast forward 6 or 7 months, and I'm on a plane to Northern Ireland to go and play rugby semi-professionally for a year.
Wow.
Yeah, playing rugby and drinking Guinness, and just experiencing the culture and everything that comes with it in Northern Ireland was amazing. And when I came back from there, I went back into the Army down in Palmerston North, and I was lucky enough to get picked up to go on an operational tour over to East Timor, and it was a 6 or 7 month tour. And we were one of the last big contingents to go over, so we were known as the 6th Battalion, or Bat 6, and we were kind of like the clean-up crew. So we had to go in there and make sure that all of the equipment could either be moved or started and moved onto a boat or plane or whatever means to get back to New Zealand. That was really our mandate, as well as looking after the locals and making things safe over there for them. Whilst I was over there, I had this real fire in my belly from being over in Northern Ireland that I knew that my passion was sport, so I applied to become a physical training instructor. So that meant lots and lots of aerobic training, hundreds of kilometres on the feet, while still in the tropics trying to do my job as a mechanic.
Okay.
So that meant I was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'd run till 6 o'clock in the morning, and then I'd start my day. So I kind of changed my body shape from being a very average front row forward of 105 kgs down to, I landed back in New Zealand at 79 kgs. So 9 days later, I found myself in the middle of Waiouru in blizzard conditions, hail. So going from tropical to that was quite a challenge. And we do a selection course, and I was lucky enough to get picked up and approved to go forward for training. And that meant that in 2003, I started my journey as a physical training instructor in the Army. Yeah, so did that, got badged or graduated, and I still wear that badge and wear that core belt, although it doesn't really fit that well anymore. And it was an amazing job, and I really still had that passion to chase high-performance sport or sports. So one of my goals, and it was a real shallow goal at the time, was to be the trainer of the Hurricanes rugby team. And so by 2004, I'd already started on that journey of working with the Hurricanes.
Okay. I didn't know that.
I had this
awesome,
amazing mentor, this guy, Jamie Tout. I can't thank him enough. And if we sort of fast forward through to 2008, then I started working with high-performance sport New Zealand athletes, Paralympic athletes that went to the Beijing Paralympics. And then I was working with the Hurricanes with this amazing trainer, Andrew Beardmore. He's a real good friend of mine and just a top bloke. And then both of us got picked up by the Highlanders, and I went down and worked with Jamie Joseph down there. Also, I managed to start working with Manu Samoa rugby and going offshore with them. Then ended up 2010 going to the Commonwealth Games as the trainer for the Manu Samoa Sevens team, the netball team, and then did a Rugby World Cup. That was to fuel that fire of that high performance stuff.
Yeah, okay.
But everything that I was getting from those learnings and experiences, I was trying to bring back and implement at some level to give us those 1%ers to make us better on the battlefield. And that passion then morphed into more exercise physiology and going down that path of rehabilitation, because I realized that, look, we're getting some severe injuries from our operations over in Afghanistan, and we need to be better at rehabilitation. So I really threw myself into that. And luckily, my wife, she's a very understanding lady. I hijacked a trip that we went to America, and I ended up going to Walter Reed. It's the US military's gold standard medical facility.
Yeah, okay. Whereabouts is it?
It's in just out of Washington,
Okay.
in Maryland. 242 hectares of hospital ground. It's huge. And it's
That
got
is
the
huge.
leading cancer research oncology facility, the leading amputee facility at the time. So I spent some time there, and I'll call them magicians in the amputee
Okay.
department.
Yeah.
Because I was working with Paralympians, and it was just absolute gold, helping bring that back at a level, because their budget is phenomenal. And then you're like, okay, what can I take out of that amazing budget to Kiwi number 8 wire with duct tape, but still make it work in a way that is Kiwi? And that was a big challenge. And I sort of stayed in that space until 2017, and I'd spent a lot of time between 2016 and 17 working with our SAS soldiers up in Papakura. And then I stepped back in 2017 into Army Reserve role, and I moved back up to Hawke's Bay with my family, because I was on the road a lot, and my wife had sacrificed so much for me to just chase a football around the world.
But you were having, an amazing career.
It was
a lot for a family, right?
Yeah. And we just had our young boy Luca at the time, and poor old Layla, she was may as well have been a solo mum, and we did some analysis, I guess, and I needed to face up to some hard realities that, hey, look, maybe I should step back from full-time army and come home, because home's home. Yeah. And mum and dad, they're not getting any younger. So all of our whānau is pretty much up here on my wife's side as well, because she's born and bred Flaxmere. I met her, she was 12, I was 13. So it goes back a wee way. Yeah. So we came home, and it was a bucket list sort of thing I always wanted to do, was to help give back to the Defence Force and become a recruiter. And I got that opportunity. I guess I'm still in that space now, but I've stepped again out of the regular force army back into the Army Reserves, and I'm working as a Army Reserve recruiter part-time, trying to get more people in the door.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, which is kind of a challenge here in Hawke's Bay.
Yeah, right. Okay. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us, Davey. Storm, tell us about your career with the New Zealand Defence Force.
Cool. So, pretty much after my work experience with Davey and my cousins, I thought, that's me. I sort of was going nowhere. My mum and dad had logging trucks here in the Hawke's Bay with Pampac, so I knew I could always go back to that, and I needed to do something for myself, really. So I thought, we'll go and join the army. So after my basic training, I was pretty fortunate, because my era were the era that pretty much deployed back-to-back tours, because everything sort of just come in at once.
Okay.
Yeah, so you had a lot of senior NCOs like sergeants and staff sergeants and warrant officers that have never been anywhere.
Yeah, okay.
So, like I said, I'm fortunate and lucky enough to just straight on deployment. So I deployed to East Timor in 2000 on the 3rd contingent. So I was NZDF 3, and a bit of a mixed bag of the soldiers. It was 1 battalion, which is the main battalion here in the North Island in Linton, so one RNZIR, so they deployed on the first one, and then Burnham, Christchurch, 1st Battalion deployed on the 2nd.
Okay.
And they needed a 3rd bunch of soldiers to go, so there was all the artillery boys. So they ended up heading over to East Timor as infantry. So, and I take my hats off to them, because that's not their trade, but because they're combat effective, they ended up doing their job pretty well. And so I was lucky enough to go with him as a driver. So I was with 10 Transport Squadron, or 10 Transport Company, 103 platoon, which is the medium lift, and they're just primarily Unimogs. And I was lucky too enough that I already had my licenses and I was helping Dad out where I could. So I had a little bit of experience as a young fella. So I was 18 when I deployed, and I had
Wow.
to,
It's young.
yeah, it is.
It's young.
And I don't think Mum and Dad wanted me to go. So I had to get a parent consent form
Did you?
signed to deploy. Yeah. They're pretty reluctant to let me go, as you would with any of your tamariki or kids, eh? So, so I went in the big wide world and went over there, and like Dave said, it was bloody hot over there, and you're changing your shirts every couple of hours, but real eye opener. So our deployment, so we were on the back of 2nd 1st Battalion, and they had just been engaged in a massive contact firefight, and we lost Leonard Manning from Te Kaufata. So that was the biggest thing for us, coming into that mind space, the unknown. And bear in mind too, no deployments had sort of been happening for NZDF since Vietnam. So we were pretty, just the unknown, really. When we got there, I remember we were flying around on our Hawke, did a big loop of the airfield, landed. We already had our rifles and stuff, so as soon as we exited the Hawke, we were straight into the load action, and then you're patrolling off the Hercules. And I remember there was Land Rover Discovery. They were brand new back then in 2000, and these Australian SAS boys turned up and they had stripped it down to the bare shell. And that's a like 50,000 wagon, and they've turned it into a mobile machine gun wagon. So they turned up and they just said, boys, grab your gears and head over to the terminal. We'll meet you over there. So that was my insight. Welcome to East Timor. And as soon as you hopped off the plane, boom, you felt the heat. Certain smells, you could smell the aviation fuel and other things in the area. And then, from there we went straight to a place called Hero, which was like a staging area before we deployed into Sinai. That was going back to the unknown. So we've just heard about this thing that happened with Leonard Manning, and everybody was on edge. I knew that our rules of engagement was pretty weak when we went over until that incident with Leonard Manning. Everything changed. They changed all our RREs, our rules of engagement, when we come into contact with the enemy.
Right.
From there, it was a good 6-7 months in country, and that deployment, even though I was on the third one, we did see a little bit of stuff, that you never forget. Like I was saying about the smells in it, that still triggers you off 20-something years later. It was a hard deployment, but a good one. And then when we came home, I came home at the end of April 2001, and then I was probably home for 3 months, and then I went back on the 4th rotation. I was only there for probably a month and a half or something like that, but I was part of what they call a FET team. So they extract everything out, help people to get home, the soldiers to get home. So I was attached to 5 Movements Company for that time. And even that was a bit of an insight, pretty much 2 deployments in the space of 7-8 months.
How did you feel when you were told so early after coming home that you were off again?
Happy as.
Because
you do all this training, and I think, you don't train just to stay here in New Zealand.
Fair enough.
You want to put your skills to the test. And, I was pretty rapt because, I had fellas coming up to me that hadn't been anywhere and like, how are you going? And it was like, I don't know. Because I had passed all my fitness testing, done all my, what they call protocol A or jabs and stabs. So I was already ready to go. So that's why I was fortunate enough to get back over on the 4th one. And then after that, come home back to New Zealand and got into the rugby scene as well. So I was based in Linton and Palmerston North with 10 Transport. And one good thing with Defence Force, they have their own rugby teams. So Navy, Air Force, Army. So I actually made the Army rugby team. And then, from there started to progress, and Defence Force, played for the Defence Force as well. Defence Blacks.
So Davey said he was a forward. What position?
I was the prop.
You
He
were
was
prop.
the hooker, I was the prop.
Oh, and prop. Yeah,
But
okay.
not at the same time, eh?
No.
Brother, yeah, so
Yeah.
different era.
Yeah.
But Davey actually came in as our trainer as well.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So
Yep.
he used to stand over by the press and, no, you can't eat that, you can't eat that. So he made sure that we were eating properly.
Okay, and cracking the whip.
Yeah, cracking the whip and
Yeah.
then give us a good thrashing on the paddock as for training. So,
Okay.
but it was good though, you know. So, and
Yeah.
I think that's what you love about the Defence Force, or for us, the Army, is because, you know, you're brothers for life and you're all feeling the pain together. And then not long after that, you do your promotion courses, then you start moving through the ranks. And I ended up going to Sinai in 2003. So that was another highlight of my career.
Okay.
So I was 21, and because I was the youngest at the time in the contingent, they took a team over to Gallipoli for ANZAC Day.
Okay.
Yeah, so I
Wow.
was fortunate enough to get selected and go there and read out the ode at Chinook Bear. So that's something that not everyone gets to do.
Yeah, right.
But I think the thing that hit us the most was you could feel the wairua, you know, of our
Yes,
people
yeah.
that had gone to this sacred place to fight. And obviously, you know, where they died, they were buried. You take your hat off to the Turkish people for looking after our men and women that passed over there, and they've made massive urupas or grave sites that are sacred for everybody to go and have a look at. So I like to say to other people, if you ever get a chance in your life, go there, because you can feel the spirit of our people that went there. And, you know, when you're standing there early that morning waiting, it was cold, you could hear the water, you know, hitting the rocks, and you think, man, that's what these fellas experienced coming through there. So I remember once we got up to Chinook Bear and did our parade up there, we did the haka, and we said to the crowd, because there was thousands of people there, and it was, I think the most out of it thing was that everybody knows Australia.
Yeah,
sort of like
Yeah.
New Zealand, where are they? And then they saw these Kiwi soldiers, and
Yep.
you know, and there was, man, you felt like a rock star, signing
Yep.
autographs and
Right,
taking
okay.
photos. Yeah, so it was pretty cool. But when it came time for the haka, you know, and this is where in my heart, I know that it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what race you are, you're whānau, you know. So our Hāteas fellas up the front doing the haka were all our Pākehā brothers and sisters, our island brothers going hard, you know, and they're just cutting us out, cutting all the Māoris out, and we're like, hey, you're trying to get in the limelight. But no, it was awesome, though, and that's just a sense of pride you feel. And I remember when we went, the whole crowd was going hard with us doing kamate, and Turkey had these jets flying our colours. That was something that, you know, I was just blown away.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's phenomenal.
Yeah, it was. And then from there, we go, well, we better go and tautoko or pay our respects to our Aussie brothers. And we're all in our number ones with medals. And one of the boys, Hemi Karodia from Wairau, he was my section commander there at the time, and he had the guitar, and he was playing the guitar as we were walking along. We're having a bit of a sing-song. And we found this little goat track. So we went down this little goat track, and then we seen another massive urupa there and all these stones. And it was Light Horse Regiment from the Australians. So this was their burial site. And, you know, we were looking through it, and the youngest fellow we found was 13 years old. But amongst all those gravestones, there was one particular one that caught our eye, and it was this fella Huru when he was 21 years old. He was from the 28 Māori Battalion. And we're like, how the hell did this fella, you know, how come he's not with everyone else? And our mind was like, bro, he must have got lost from the battalion and met these Aussies, and what are you fellas up to? We'll come with you. So what had happened, he obviously fought with them and died with them. And so the Turkish people actually put a proper plaque down with the silver fern and pretty much stated that this is where he fell with the Aussie brothers. And then that goes into context, the ANZAC code. So that was pretty surreal for us at the time. It was blown away. But you think as a modern day commander, being up there on the high ground, how we had already lost the battle. So heading ANZAC Cove, and you're already looking at the high ground going, oh yeah, they would have just mowed us down. It was pretty emotional for us. Yeah. And then we had to get back to reality, so flew back into Egypt and Sinai, and So our taskings over there, our job as New Zealanders was to pretty much supply most of the sites over there. So you're part of the MFO, which is the Multinational Force and Observers. I was over there as a driver, and even that, just working with Americans, Fijian brothers that we had worked with in the past with East Timor, Colombians.
Okay.
So, and for the Colombians, there was a holiday for them because those guys are fighting all the time, drug lords and stuff in their own country, you know. So those fellas had already seen immense combat before they come over where we were. So while we were there, my deployment or my contingent, we were 03. So Saddam was threatening to bomb Israel at the time. So this is another thing that, there's only probably a few soldiers that have probably done it, carrying your heavy sack. So you had your gas, your NBC kit, your biological chemical warfare suit. So we had to carry those of us while we're driving along. And Uruguay was another country that were there. And for them, I think they were deployed there for their government, so their government would receive money. So they were pretty, we were lucky we had all the gears and those poor buggers didn't. So when we were driving along and you had all your kit with you and you're thinking, oh, brother, if anything happens, sorry, man. Yeah, it's like, what do you do?
You've got, but that would have been awful.
It sort of was.
Like one of you, being in a plane and one of you's got a parachute and the other one doesn't.
Yeah. So you just had, for us as Kiwis, I suppose, you just go, no, we'll just try and get out of here together. That was pretty full on, that deployment for us. It was massive eye-opener, and I had just met my wife, who sort of just started going out, but I was lucky that she came halfway through my tour because she was in the army too.
Okay.
So we got to spend 3 months together.
In Sinai?
Yeah, 3 months ago. She came over as a driver as well. So, and that's something that we'll both cherish when times are tough. We think about the past and, oh, that's right. That's why I love you. So after that deployment, I actually left her behind and I came home first, and you just catch up with whatever coursing, because coursing was something within the Defence Force. That's how you get paid, but better once you start going up through the ranks. So after that, I come home for a bit, and when she came home, she just decided, oh, I've had enough. I'm going to get out. And so she did, and went to Australia. And I was like, you either coming or you stay. So, I did. I actually followed her over there, so we did a bit of time in Aussie. And then I actually got out of the army, left for a few years, and then came back in 2009. Okay.
And when did you go to Antarctica?
That was in 2010.
2010,
Yep.
Okay.
So I was lucky to deploy down to the ice as well. Even that, it was like being on another planet.
Yeah, I'll bet it was.
So what the chilling part was the wind chill. You might have a hot day, it's a fine day, and it's the wind day, sort of chops you in half. We had one day while we were there where there was no wind. You can actually walk around in the shorts and t-shirt, which was out of it. Then the next day, Category 5 blizzard, so we were based at McMurdo with the Americans, where the other Kiwi lads that are there on the deployment, the Scott base. Yeah, but massive history there, especially for Kiwis, and I think too, that's a bucket list to tick, because you can only go there either as military or scientist.
That's right.
So that's one thing I'm happy to say that I've ticked off. And but then not long after that, I did another command course, became a full corporal, and then deployed back to East Timor in 2012. Okay. 3 tours, but this time it was instead of jungle warfare, it went to urban. So like Dave's last deployment on BAT 6 were Gyro 13. So we were the last. And so even though I was there as the transport NCO, so looking after most of the vehicles, and then we had another transport element that was at a place called Tiger Lines in the same camp, FOB, but they were just down the way, and they were all the truckies looking after the armoured pinnies, so they'd roll around, machine guns up. They actually took that job off QAMR, the Tanky Boys, because they were transitioning out. But even that deployment was a good eye-opener, because, being there from the early days to going to Dili, so that's where we were based, to see the change. Even though it was sort of safe, I was still cruising around with a pistol strapped to my thigh.
Sure.
You still had to keep your wits about you.
I bet you did.
Yeah, so that was a good deployment, that one. And then Afghan kicked off at the same time, and we lost a few people in Afghan, and I was with 2nd 1st Battalion Bravo Company, but the sister company Crib 21, they lost a few good men and one of the girls there. Yeah, and there was, I remember when our CO, commanding officer, come in and sort of told our contingent, hey, we've just had another massive incident in Afghan. Need you to come into the room and sit down. And so we're all sitting there, and, I don't think every soldier will experience what he's about to tell you. And on the screen, because you get a death photo when you deploy overseas, which is, a view in front of the flag. So everyone gets those photos taken before they deploy. And then that's what it's essentially called, Davey, a death photo. Yeah. So we were sitting there waiting in the conference room, and the first photo that come up, you sort of knew straight away which patrol it was, who it was.
Yep.
And one of our mates, he's a good dude too, Luke Tamatea, when he popped up on the screen, I've never seen so many seasoned, tough, soldiers, break down and cry.
Yeah.
Because they just lost a real close brother.
Oh, man.
And I was lucky that our bosses let those fellas that were real close to him fly over, because the plane was coming from Afghan into Darwin to refuel. And so they went and paid their respects. And then from there, they went back to New Zealand. But that was another big eye-opener from a soldier's point of view. It's sitting there looking at your mates on the screen, That's pretty surreal. And you start thinking about what you do, why you do it as well.
Yeah.
And, like I said before, you train to deploy. So the risks, and I think if you die overseas, you'll be remembered forever, which they are. They'll be remembered forever.
Well, thank you, Storm, for sharing that with us. Your deployments sound, as you say, an eye-opener, and pleased to hear there's some good memories in the mix there, as well as the very sad memories. Next week, we'll be with Storm and Davey again as Cyclone Gabrielle descends on Hawke's Bay. Please share this episode so everyone gets to meet these guys before the next part of their story. Home Turf, coming next week.